Another Monday, another JPGivin'er Analysis, baby. Yeehaw, bud. Alright, you guys know the drill. I'm going to analyze 3 races from a war I played with Arcadia last week. And you'll see me at the top when I'm giving her full throttle, and at the bottom where I'm taking her instead. But with that being said, let's just get her going. Okay, so starting things off, we're on Donut Plains 3. And the first half of this race was pretty boring for the most part, with not much really taking place. Just a lot of soft bagging on my end. But the second half of this race is where a lot of critical plays and decisions are made. So a few seconds before this point, Monty and Jiden told us that they both have shock. Now here's the thing. It's really easy to hesitate when your team has 2 shocks, since it can be really stressful figuring out what the right call is. So the shock that came in hot here came from Monfi, and he did it to dodge Jiden so that we would still have 1 shock and get rid of any chance of the other team using a shock of their own. Now back to my position in the race, I'm an 8th at this point, which can be a pretty solid spot when trying to get a dodge. But just to be safe, I made it clear in the call that I plan on taking the wide doubles just to give myself a tiny bit more space from the pack. Now it probably didn't make a huge difference, but I still wanted to increase my odds as much as possible of getting a dodge because of the distance-based item system. And as you can see here, I pulled a golden and a star. Now instead of trying to use my golden to the best of its ability, my main objective was to get my star out as quickly as possible since we were approaching the first set of lap 3. This is a critical set to chain your star at, whether a shock is in play or not. And if there is a shock, it will screw over the opposing team big time if they're unable to predict it. You see what I mean? We have the most comfortable top 3 of our life now because of how incredible that shock spot is. See, here's the thing. There's only 2 item sets in this track, and the first set has way more value than the second set because when you're taking optimal lines, you'll never take the path to get a box at the second set. And yeah, there's really not much else to say regarding our shock, but there is one last thing I'd like to bring up before moving on to the next race. Alright, so you can see here that I have a lot of space. So Brandon told us he was in 4th, which means we're top 4 and should be laughing for the rest of the race. So maybe I could throw away my greens, shroom up at the mini grass cut, and finish the race more quickly. Sound good? Of course it doesn't. There is absolutely no reason for me to get rid of my green shells here. See, here's the thing. If I throw away my greens, shroom up, and gain a spot or 2, I'm only passing us. It won't change the outcome of the race unless I hit my teammate, which is a possibility. Now look, I know in this scenario it would be flat out stupid for me to throw my greens away, but the point is, don't make risky plays that have no way of benefiting your team. Put your ego aside and focus on the team. And yeah, not much else to say here really. We got a really dominant race, landing top 4. Yeehaw, bud. Alright, next up we got Hyrule Circuit, and this race came right after Donut Plains 3, which is why we picked this since we were top 4. But regarding this race itself, there were a couple moments where I did things right and things I did wrong. So I'd say I had an above average performance this race. Okay, so going into this turn, I was uncertain of where I stood with Teebles in the moment, because previously, I had gotten a pretty solid draft before the glider, and even though I wasn't first on my screen upon landing from the glider, I wanted to stay centered on the track in order to give space for Teebles in the event that he would lag in front of me, or if he was right beside me in the blind spot of my rear view. This is why I took the double box. So when I began drifting left and realized that Teebles was not next to me, that's when I chose to stay tight and keep first. So yeah, that was a pretty light moment to bring up. But the point is that these are the steps you should take if you're unsure if your teammate is in first or right next to you. Stay centered in the event they lag back up, and if you can clearly see that they're behind you and letting you in the first, that's your cue to play like you're in first. So all things considered, I played this part of the race pretty terribly. As you can see here, I could clearly see Drax shroom up in the shortcut, and I also saw that after he shroomed up, he had another mushroom as his primary item. So at first glance, it looks like I did nothing wrong. You know, he shroomed, popped out a red, and chubbed me right away. Unlucky? I think not. Just look at how he came up to me on my screen. He clearly came up on my right, circled behind me, and then trailed me. Now, if I trailed my green before he shroomed up, he either A, would have spaced in order to not get hit, or B, he would have stayed in the same line, and I would have trailed him. So yeah, I didn't play that too well, but thankfully, Teeples had a red and planned to red Drac off the glider. Okay, that's awesome. So what do? Instead of keeping my greens to potentially combo him once he lands, I throw my greens off to get 2 new items. That was just stupid. This was an opportunity to set ourselves up in a great way, and I completely blew it. There's not really much else to say about that because, I mean, that was just a stupid play, but it is what it is. You live and learn. Now, this I played nearly perfectly. Now, I saw that the guy behind me had triple greens, and I was really confident in my ability to protect myself with my fire. Now, I didn't want to get rid of my fire right away and then attempt to hit the guy, because if I missed, he would have had a clear shot at me with his greens. So instead, I waited for him to try to hit me with his greens, which luckily was on one of the tightest sections of the track. And I knew that I could keep backing my fire at that point because he had hardly any wiggle room, unless for whatever reason he tried to hop in the off-road before the Shroomless shortcut to get an item box, but that's besides the point. But yeah, the rest is history from there. I eliminated all of his greens, I shroomed up, and was good to go. And yeah, not much else significant happened this race, and since we were mainly in the front going into lap 3, we got a pretty solid race overall, as you can see here. Alright, I am not ready for this. Ribbon Road. This race was an emotional roller coaster for me, but it was for good reason because there were a few instances where I played really well and others where I was just a complete moron. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about shortly, and yeah, at that point, you can just feel free to flame me in the comments because I deserve it. So why wouldn't I go for coins here? Because I have 2 coins, and it's absolutely worth my time to go for them. Well, here's the thing. Ace told us in the call that he was going for coins, which is why I stayed tight. Whether he meant to go for coins or not, or if he actually went for a few coins on his screen or not, I still should have positioned myself to pick up a few coins anyways in the event that he would lag some. Now, here's the thing. This didn't really change much in the actual race, but in some situations, increasing your top speed with a few coins could be the difference between you doing well or not. Alright, this is really important to bring up. So going into the last lap, we were top 5, and because I had a Shroom and a Boo, I chose to get right into first. Now, I did this because I wanted to ensure that no one's item would get stolen as long as the race was still on, since there could only be one Boo in play at a time, and if all of my team is protecting me, then there's no reason for me to use my Boo unless I'm trying to predict shock. And using a Boo in first also guarantees you a mushroom, so it's like you could dodge 2 blues, but that's besides the point because we're at the point in the race now where it's impossible for there to be 2 blues this lap. But either way, this was absolutely the play. So, we're approaching the final stretch of the race. We're still giving it. I'm vibing with the Boo in first. So what could possibly go wrong? Yep, that actually happened. Not only did I fall off in first like an idiot, but I selfishly booed Brandon's triple shrooms as well. This was just stupid of me, point blank period. But here's the thing. I honestly believe the reason why I tossed for content so hard here is because I got complacent. I felt like I had already won the race since I used my Boo right before the glider section. I knew I wouldn't get target shock, and I knew I would get a mushroom to take the ending shortcut with. If I didn't use my second Boo selfishly, I think Brandon and I would have just swapped spots, but that would have never happened if I didn't fall off like a ding-dong. We could have got 5 out of the top 6 spots, and I blew it hard. Okay, look, we still got a really good race here, but oh my god, this one hurts, man. This one really hurts. Flame me in the comment section right now, man. I deserve it, man. Come on. Well, there you have it. Even though it ended with me being a complete moron, I hope you learned something from watching this, whether it be something to do or not to do. Most likely not to do, but hey, if you liked what you saw, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I don't really have anything else special to end the video with, so I guess that's just the way she goes. Keep on giving her. I was gonna say that later, but whatever. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and keep on giving her, bud.